If doubt did not exist in your mind, what would you already be? What moves would you have made? What mountains would you have climbed? And what empire would already be built under your name? By the time this speech ends, you will no longer beg for confidence. You will walk in it. This speech contains a mental trick so simple, it will feel like you already knew it. But if you knew it, you wouldn't be stuck in second guessing, would you? This will not be a feel-good message. This is fire, a command, a spiritual override for the mental noise that has robbed you of years. If you drift, if you half listen, if you skip past even one paragraph, the doubt will win. And not just for a day, for a decade, because doubt is patient. It waits, it multiplies, it survives in silence. But it cannot survive attention, and it cannot survive decision. So I ask you now, not with kindness, but with urgency, turn everything else off, shut the world out. Because somewhere in these next moments lies the sentence that will not just inspire you, it will reprogram you. If you listen fully, deeply, like a man fighting for his future, this moment will split your life into 2 chapters. Before you learned this trick and after. Now lean in, breathe deep, and prepare to shut it down for good. Most men never question the voice in their head. They obey it, trust it, react to it, but they never ask, where did it come from? You think it's yours because it speaks in your tone, your language, your memories, but it isn't. That voice was installed. It was installed when someone told you you're not ready, and you believed it. It was installed when you failed once and decided you were a failure. It was installed when you heard, don't be too ambitious, and shrunk your vision to fit in. That voice, the one that makes you pause before applying, hesitate before speaking, delay before building, it is not the voice of your highest self. It is the ghost of your past, trying to preserve its control. But here's the truth that most never hear. Doubt is not a warning. It is a recording. It is a line you've heard so many times from so many places that it became a loop, and you mistake the loop for logic. You hear it and think, I shouldn't do this. But what's actually happening is your subconscious is playing back the last time you hesitated and trying to protect you from pain. This is important to understand. Your subconscious mind is not designed to make you great. It is designed to keep you alive. And to the subconscious, different equals danger. So the moment you try to grow, to act, to speak boldly, to step into a higher identity, the system doesn't say, amazing, let's rise. It says, wait, this feels unfamiliar. Let's go back to what we know. It doesn't care if what we know is mediocrity, stagnation, failure. It cares that it's familiar, because the brain prefers the comfort of failure over the uncertainty of growth. So what does it do? It sends you doubt, not to destroy you, but to protect what it thinks you are, to keep you in alignment with your old self. But here's the good news. If doubt is just a loop, it can be broken. If it's just a voice, it can be silenced. And if it's just a story, you can write a new one. And so here's your first practice. Do it now, not later, not after the speech. Now, take out something to write with and answer this. What is the voice in my head actually saying to me? Write the exact sentences that echo in your moments of hesitation. The ones that show up before you build, speak, decide, or act. It might sound like, I always screw this up. What will they think? I'm not smart enough for this. What if I get it wrong again? Now, look at that list. And with full honesty, ask yourself, whose voice is this, really? Because it's not yours. You weren't born with it. It was programmed into you. And if something can be programmed, it can be reprogrammed. Let this next line land hard. I am not the voice in my head. I am the one who decides what it says next. Write that down. Speak it aloud. Say it again. I am not the voice in my head. I am the one who decides what it says next. That is power. That is liberation. Most men spend their lives reacting to an internal voice that was never theirs to begin with. You will not be one of them. because the moment you name the voice, it begins to lose its authority. The moment you observe the loop, you stop obeying it. And the moment you install a new voice, one of decision, command, and clarity, the doubt begins to suffocate. You are no longer the man who listens without question. You are the one who chooses the script. And we are just getting started. Most men try to reason with doubt. They argue with it, try to silence it by thinking more thoughts. But that is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Doubt feeds on attention. And every second you spend thinking about it is a second you've already lost to it. The key is not to reason, the key is to interrupt. Like a needle scratching across a record, like a door slammed shut mid-sentence. You don't let the loop finish. You don't allow the doubt to wind up. You cut it off with power. Here's what I mean. Let's say your loop starts like this. I don't know if I'm ready for this. You don't let it go on. You don't say, well, maybe if I think more about it. You interrupt it. You say out loud, shut it down. Not whispered, not passive, like a command barked at a dog you've trained to stop. This is not an affirmation. This is activation, a phrase you train into your system so thoroughly that when doubt shows its face, your response is instant. This is what the greats do, not just in words, but in action. Carnegie, he didn't entertain the voice of hesitation when building steel empires. He acted, then made it right. Lincoln, he led during war with every reason to second guess, but refused to delay. He decided, then stood tall. Edison, he didn't pause after 9,000 failed attempts. He acted again. Why? Because the loop of doubt had been overwritten by the command to build. You must train the same interrupt. Say it with me now, aloud. Shut it down. This is your mental override switch. You will use it every single time the loop begins to rise. But here's the mistake many men make. They only use it when things are falling apart. That's too late. You must install this before the moment comes. You must rehearse power, and that's what you will do now. Here's your practice. Take your most common doubtful thought. Write it down. For example, I always mess this up. Now next to it, write in bold, shut it down. Below that, write the replacement command. Not just a nicer thought, but a stronger one that asserts leadership over your mind. Example, I always mess this up. Shut it down. I execute, I finish, I win. Say it now, say it with intensity. I execute, I finish, I win. You must treat this like a physical muscle. The more you repeat it, the faster it activates. The more emotional force you give it, the deeper it embeds into the subconscious. Because remember this, your mind does not obey truth. It obeys repetition with emotion. So, if you've repeated weakness, fear, delay for years, it's not enough to just be positive. You must out-rehearse the old loop. And every shut it down is a strike of the hammer. Every power phrase is a replacement brick. Every interruption is an installation of the new you. You don't have to believe it fully at first. You just have to say it with force until belief follows. That's how power is built, not by feeling ready, but by commanding the moment. Write this now. I do not negotiate with doubt. I interrupt it, I replace it, I command my mind. Say it again. I do not negotiate with doubt, I command my mind. That is your standard from this point forward. You are not here to argue with hesitation. You are here to dominate it. Ready to move forward? Doubt is loudest in an undisciplined mind. It waits in the quiet hours, in the unplanned moments, in the empty spaces between your intentions. And if your day has no direction, your mind will invent one. One that defaults to fear, hesitation, and the loop you said you wanted to leave behind. This is why the most powerful men in history, men like Carnegie, Edison, Ford, did not just act with purpose. They prepared with purpose. They pre-commanded their day, not after it began, before. They didn't let the world dictate their rhythm. They dictated the rhythm to the world. If you're serious about silencing doubt permanently, you must begin to treat your morning not as a time to wake up, but as a time to take command. Here is your new creed: if I do not direct the day, doubt will. So how do we take command? Ritual. Not complicated routines, simple, clear, repeatable rituals of dominance. Let's install 3 of them now. These are not optional. These are your daily fire drills, your mental weapons against hesitation. 1. Wake and declare. The moment you rise, before your feet even hit the floor, you must speak. You must command your state. Because your mind in the first few moments of waking is a sponge. It is wide open to suggestion. And if you do not feed it your commands, it will absorb commands from fear, fatigue, or the past. So the first thing you say when you wake is this: this is my day. I command my thoughts. I command my energy. I command my outcome. Then repeat your interrupt phrase: shut it down. This teaches your subconscious that you are the first voice it hears, not doubt, not the past, not the noise. This alone will begin to shift your emotional chemistry within 3 days. 2. Read your identity out loud. Most men read information in the morning, and you will read identity, because you are not here to learn more. You are here to become more. So, write out, in detail, a paragraph of the man you are becoming. Not who you hope to be, who you are in the present tense. Example: I am a decisive man. I act with clarity. I speak with command. I build daily. I do not delay. I do not excuse. I create. I lead. I finish. Every morning, read this paragraph aloud. Not passively, not like it's homework. Read it like you're instructing an army. And that army is your mind, because it is. The subconscious listens to repeated identity. And if you say it long enough, it believes it. And when it believes it, it builds it. 3. Visualize execution. Close your eyes, see yourself. Not trying, not hoping, executing. Finishing is speaking with power, walking with certainty. See yourself refusing to flinch when pressure hits. Watch yourself act before doubt can speak. This is not fantasy. This is future memory. You are rehearsing power. Why? Because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. It only knows what is rehearsed with feeling. So give it the image you want it to copy. See it. Feel it. Then open your eyes and then walk into that identity. Now let me tell you what happens when you do these 3 rituals for 7 straight days. Your thoughts begin to shift before you consciously intervene. You begin to hear the voice of hesitation, and your automatic response becomes power. You begin to build what the weak call discipline, and what you now know as command. This is what the greats understood. The subconscious mind is not an obstacle to overcome. It is a weapon to be trained, but only if you feed it with structure, only if you show up daily with fire. Say this aloud now. I command my morning. I program my mind. I lead my life. Say it again, louder. I command my morning. I program my mind. I lead my life. And now write this. If I do not speak power, doubt will. That is your law now. That is the line in the sand. This is not about being positive. It's about being prepared. Because a man who commands his day does not need to negotiate with doubt. He has already decided. And from this moment forward, so have you. Next, we will confront the hidden enemy that doubt feeds on, identity confusion. There is a reason why no matter how many books you read, no matter how many plans you make, no matter how much motivation you absorb, the old doubt still comes back. It's because beneath the knowledge, beneath the intention, beneath the ambition, your identity has not changed. You see, your mind will always find a way to return to what it believes to be true about you. And if that truth is, I'm inconsistent. I always fall off. I'm not like them. I just need to figure it out. Then every effort you make, even if it's powerful in the moment, will eventually bend back toward the old pattern. Because behavior will never permanently outpace identity. This is why most life changes don't last, because they're done as the old self trying to become the new one. But the old self always protects itself, always. Let me make this clear. Until you shift identity, doubt will always have a home. And identity is not changed by motivation. Identity is changed by decision, followed by ritual, reinforced by repetition. Let me show you how this works. Most men say, I want to be more disciplined, but what they're really saying is, I'm not disciplined, but I hope I can act like I am for long enough to change. That doesn't work, because the subconscious hears the underlying identity. It doesn't care about the goal, it cares about what you call yourself. So what should you say instead? You say, like, I am a disciplined man. And yes, the mind may resist at first. The evidence may scream otherwise. The old pattern may chuckle in the background. But this is where the transformation begins. Not when you believe it, when you decide it. That decision, spoken before it feels real, is the power. That declaration, made while the old identity still has a pulse, is the rebirth. Because what you say with consistency eventually becomes your internal law. You are not trying to become. You are installing identity, and behavior always follows identity. Let's go deeper. Think of how your mind behaves when you say, I'm the type of person who always finishes what he starts. Now compare that to, I hope I can stay consistent this time. Which one trains your nervous system to act? Which one silences doubt before it can take shape? Which one gives the subconscious a command to obey? The first one, because identity doesn't ask for permission. It gives instruction. So write this now. I am the type of person who is decisive. I am the type of person who finishes what he starts. I am the type of person who commands his mind. These are not affirmations. These are installs. Let me give you an exercise that rewired my own identity and that of every man who has risen above the mud of mediocrity. It's called the Identity Statement Practice. Each morning, write out 5, I am the type of person who statements. Each one must align with the man you're becoming. Not fluffy traits, not nice ideas. Habits, characteristics, direct instructions to your nervous system. Examples, I'm the type of person who acts immediately on vision. I'm the type of person who shows up even when he doesn't feel like it. I'm the type of person who speaks clearly, leads boldly, and decides quickly. I'm the type of person who silences doubt through motion. I'm the type of person who lives by ritual, not feeling. Now, do this for 21 days without missing. Speak them, read them, act them. You will feel resistance. That's normal. That's the dying breath of the old identity. But if you persist, if you install, if you repeat with emotion, the old voice loses power, because the mind cannot hold 2 conflicting identities forever. Eventually, one voice wins, and it will be the voice that is repeated with authority. Here's the truth you must never forget. The subconscious cannot argue. It only reflects, and it will always reflect who you say you are, not who you hope to be. So speak like the man you're becoming, act like him, walk like him, repeat his words, and the world will respond accordingly. Because reality does not bow to your desires. It bows to your identity. Now let's apply this directly, right now. Get out a piece of paper. At the top, write, my identity is now. Then finish this sentence 10 times. I'm the type of person who... Write them with fire, with finality, with a commitment that makes the old you flinch. Then fold that paper. Keep it with you. Read it twice a day for the next 30 days. Because once your subconscious accepts this new script, you will no longer need motivation. You will simply act. Because action will now match identity. One final truth before we move on. You are not transforming because of new information. You are transforming because of a new decision, spoken, repeated, and lived. That's the only real change. Not what you know, what you now believe to be true about who you are. So decide boldly and speak daily. Repeat with power, because your doubt does not live in your abilities. It lives in your identity. Change that, and you change everything. Let us speak now of the battlefield where most men lose the war, not because they are weak, but because they are ruled by a master they were never taught to question: emotion. Emotion is not your enemy, but if left untrained, it becomes your captor. Emotion is meant to be felt, not followed. It is a guest, not a general, and yet most men wake up each day and hand the reins of their destiny to how they feel in that moment. If they feel inspired, they act. If they feel tired, they wait. If they feel uncertain, they hesitate. But understand this now: no man ever built an empire by waiting for agreement from his emotions. Let me make this clear. The most powerful men you admire, the Carnegies, the Edisons, the Lincolns, they did not feel like doing the work every day. They did not always feel certain. They did not always feel powerful, but they obeyed discipline, not feeling. They installed systems that ran with or without emotional fuel. They built rituals that outlasted motivation. They moved, even when nothing in them wanted to, because here is the truth. Discipline is doing what is required, even when it is not rewarded immediately. It is acting in alignment with identity, regardless of mood. And when that becomes who you are, emotion no longer decides your movement. You do. Let me show you how this works with a simple reframe that few will ever teach you. Instead of asking each morning, "What do I feel like doing today?" you ask, "What would the disciplined version of me do right now?" You do not seek alignment with emotion. You seek alignment with identity. Because every time you obey discipline over feeling, you reinforce power. Every time you obey feeling over discipline, you feed doubt. One becomes your master, the other becomes your fuel. Let's go deeper with this. Say this aloud right now. I do not follow my feelings. I follow my decisions. Again, I am not ruled by how I feel. I am ruled by what I've chosen. Let that sink in and let it become your internal compass. Write it on your wall if you must. Because in the moments when your mind begins to bargain, when it tells you, just take the day off, it's okay to skip today, you deserve to rest, you must return to this one truth. Discipline is the voice of the man I am becoming. Emotion is the echo of the man I'm leaving behind. Now let's make this practical. Here are 3 exercises to begin training discipline over emotion. Today. 1. The cold commitment. Choose one thing every day that is mildly uncomfortable. A cold shower, a fasted walk, waking 30 minutes earlier. Then do it before your mind has a chance to vote. Why? Because every time you act before emotion can intervene, you strengthen your command center. You are practicing obedience to decision, not feeling. That is mental weightlifting. 2. The identity pulse. 3 times a day. Morning, midday, and night, pause and ask, what would the man I'm becoming do right now? Then do it, immediately. This trains your nervous system to act from identity, not emotion. You're no longer asking, how do I feel? You're commanding, act in alignment. 3. The end of day integrity report. Before bed, take 60 seconds and ask yourself, did I obey emotion or did I obey identity today? Be honest. If you obeyed emotion, acknowledge it and declare that tomorrow will be different. If you obeyed identity, celebrate it, because every act of discipline is a brick in the fortress of your new self. Now let's anchor this with a few spoken declarations. Say them aloud, say them slowly. Let them carve new pathways in your mind. I am the type of person who finishes what he starts. I am the type of person who does not negotiate with emotion. I act before I feel like it. My future obeys my discipline, not my doubt. These are not lines for motivation. These are codes of conduct. Recite them daily, not to feel better, but to become better, because repetition is how a soldier is trained. And you, my friend, are in a war against the version of you that flinches, that waits, that obeys comfort. Every act of discipline is a strike against that old king. And every time you obey it, you build the throne of the new one. So ask yourself this. In the next 24 hours, when doubt whispers, when emotion says not today, Will you wait to feel right? Or will you act because it's already right? That choice, made in silence, repeated in stillness, is what separates the powerful from the passive. It is what separates men who wish for freedom from men who walk in it. You have made your decision. Now act like it. Most men walk through life believing that something is wrong with them. They believe they were born lazy or unmotivated or unfocused or inconsistent. They believe the discipline they see in others is something those men were given. And so they conclude, I'm just not wired that way. But hear this now, and then let it burn through every lie you've ever accepted. You are not broken. You are untrained. There is nothing wrong with your drive. There is nothing wrong with your mind. There is nothing wrong with your ambition. You have simply never been shown how to direct it. You've been given inspiration, but not instruction. You've been told to believe in yourself, but never told how to install belief into your system. You've been fed motivation that fades, instead of rituals that rewire. Let me explain. The mind is like a wild horse, powerful, fast, full of energy, but left untamed, it runs in circles. It kicks at shadows. It destroys the very ground it walks on. Your thoughts, when untrained, will run you into exhaustion. Not because you lack power, but because power without direction is destruction. Think about the average day for most men. They wake up, and their first thoughts are not of purpose, they're of problems. They don't train the mind in the morning. They feed it noise, comparison, anxiety, distraction, and then they wonder why their day feels like a fog. The truth is simple. You cannot live a powerful life on untrained thoughts. So how do we train them? How do we begin the process of going from scattered to sculpted, from reactive to ruthless in focus? It begins with one decision. I will no longer treat my mind like a stranger. I will command it as its rightful master. Once that decision is made, everything changes, because you no longer allow randomness to govern your thoughts. You begin to train. And the first step of that training is this. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, what system am I missing? Because it's not a flaw in your character. It's a gap in your structure. Let me give you a story. Charles Schwab, long before he was the Titan of steel, was a man with no title, no authority, but he had something most did not: personal training, internal command. Carnegie didn't promote Schwab because of his resume. He promoted him because of his presence, because Schwab had trained himself to walk into rooms with energy, to speak with conviction, to take on more responsibility than was expected. Schwab didn't wait to be chosen. He acted as if he already belonged at the top. That wasn't talent. That wasn't luck. That was identity, rehearsed, refined, and trained. And now that is your path too. No more trying to figure it out. No more waiting to feel ready. You begin the training, starting today. And here's how. First, daily self-command. Every morning you must begin with this ritual. Stand, speak, declare. My mind obeys me. I do not obey fear. I do not obey delay. I do not obey comfort. Repeat that until your system wakes up and begins to understand you are not here to follow your thoughts. You are here to lead them. 2, install a power phrase. Create one sentence that defines the man you are becoming. Say it every time hesitation shows up. Example, I'm the type of person who executes under pressure. Or, I am decisive. I move before doubt takes root. Repeat it during your workouts, during your commute, before every important task. This becomes your mental anchor, your override switch. 3rd, daily identity task. Each day, assign yourself one task that only the man you're becoming would complete. Something small, but targeted. This is not about volume. This is about alignment. One example, send the email you've been avoiding. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Speak publicly about your goal. Record a video. Make the call. Say the thing. The task itself doesn't matter. What matters is this. You acted as the new identity, and with each act, the old version of you begins to die. Now let's install a few affirmations and say them aloud. Don't just read, declare. I am not broken. I am building. I am not lazy. I am untrained, and I'm training daily. I do not ask for focus, I create it. My mind obeys command, not chaos. Let those phrases become your weaponry, because repetition creates identity, and identity creates reality. So let's end with this. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not defective. You are simply standing at the threshold of training. You are ready. And the system you build, the rituals, the commands, the repetitions, will become the foundation of your freedom. Say it one more time. I am not broken. I am training my power. Each repetition is building the man I was meant to be. I act now. I repeat daily, and I become unstoppable. You're not lost. You're becoming. There is a voice inside your mind. It speaks often. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it shouts. Sometimes it says nothing, but you feel its presence, like a pressure in your chest, a tightness in your breath. You hear it when you hesitate. You hear it when you delay. You hear it when you imagine success. And something inside you says, you? Really? That voice has shaped more of your life than you care to admit. But let me tell you a truth that most never discover. That voice in your head is not always yours. It may sound like you. It may echo through your thoughts like a familiar friend. But often, that voice was planted. Planted by a parent who told you not to dream too big. Planted by a teacher who told you to play it safe. Planted by a moment of failure, repeated so many times it became your identity. It is a borrowed belief, passed to you like a script, installed without permission, rehearsed until it felt real. But real and true are not the same. And now, it's time to return it. Because if you do not challenge that voice, you will obey it. If you do not question that voice, you will follow it. If you do not replace that voice, you will become it and never become anything else. Let me give you an example. I interviewed hundreds of the most powerful men of his time. And one thing became clear. Whether it was Carnegie, Ford, Edison, or Schwab, they all heard doubt. They all felt resistance. But they disobeyed the voice. Not because they were fearless, but because they chose which voice to obey. Henry Ford once said, "If you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right." What he meant was this: your life follows the voice you believe. So I ask you now, and I want you to answer with ruthless honesty, whose voice have I been living by? Is it your father's disappointment? Is it your mother's fear? Is it the voice of a teacher, a failure, an ex-lover, a rejection that wrapped itself around your future? And if it is, let's make something clear. You do not owe that voice your destiny. You are not required to carry the tone of your past into the rhythm of your future. You do not need to rehearse an identity just because you've worn it for years. You may not be responsible for how that voice got there. But you are responsible for whether or not it stays. So let's make this real. Let's do the work. Take out a journal, a page, anything, and then write this. The voice I obey most often says, then finish the sentence. Be raw, be unfiltered. Does it say, I'll never make it? I don't have what it takes? I always mess it up. I'm not like them. Write it down. Look it in the face. Now underneath it, write, this voice is not mine. I no longer follow it. Burn it, rip it, destroy it. Not for drama, but for declaration. And this is ritual. This is how you signal to the subconscious. We no longer take orders from weakness. Now install a new voice. Craft a sentence that begins like this. I am the man who, and finish it. I am the man who decides with clarity. I am the man who acts before emotion. I am the man who finishes what he starts. Say it aloud. Say it again. Then write it on your wall. Then record it and play it back. Repeat it until your nervous system begins to obey. Because remember this, the subconscious does not care what is true. It cares what is repeated. So if you want a new identity, you must give it a new voice, daily. Let's make this even more practical. Here are two powerful techniques to rewire the voice in your mind. 1. The voice override. Every time you catch a thought that does not belong to your future, say this out loud. That's not my voice. I don't follow that anymore. This interrupts the pattern. It cuts the script. It creates a moment of power. Most men never override the voice. They argue with it. You don't argue. You replace. 2. The rehearsal ritual. Each morning, spend 3 minutes speaking the identity you're becoming. This is not a pep talk. This is a mental training session. Say, I am the type of person who follows through. I am the type of person who speaks with authority. I am the type of person who creates discipline, even when I don't feel it. I am the type of person who wins because I've decided to. Speak with tone, with fire, with absolute belief, because every time you do, the old voice loses ground. Let's anchor this now with a few more affirmations. Say them aloud, like they belong to you. I no longer obey doubt. I command belief. I reject the voices of my past. I speak my future into existence. I am not who I used to be. I am who I choose to become daily. My thoughts obey me. My voice leads me. My future follows me. Say them every day. Because the man who speaks his identity long enough begins to believe it. And the man who believes it becomes it. You are not a prisoner of your thoughts. You are not stuck with the script you inherited. You are the author. You hold the pen. And with each repetition, each declaration, you write a new life. You write a voice so powerful, so rooted, so trained, that doubt no longer recognizes your mind as its home. From this day forward, say it clearly. That voice was never mine. I no longer follow it. I speak with the voice of who I am becoming. And with that voice, you will shut doubt down. Doubt is not a curse exclusive to the weak. Doubt does not visit only the lost, the broken, or the uncertain. Doubt, the internal whisper of what if I fail, has visited every great man you admire. The difference is this. The greats did not live with doubt. They answered it. They did not argue. They did not apologize. They did not explain. They simply refused to let doubt become their director. They understood one timeless principle. Doubt is not a sign to stop. It is a signal to decide. Let's study them now, not as untouchable legends, but as men who heard the same lies you do and silenced them with decision. 1. Henry Ford. Produce it anyway. When Henry Ford set out to build the Model T and revolutionize transportation, he didn't have the credentials. He didn't have mass approval. He didn't even have agreement from his own engineers. They told him it couldn't be done. They said his dream of an affordable car for every working man was unrealistic. They doubted the idea of an 8-cylinder engine in a single block. They told him, this design is impossible. Ford said just 6 words in return: keep working, produce it anyway. And those 6 words built an empire. He didn't argue with doubt. He didn't try to debate the limitations. He didn't ask for reassurance. He gave the order, and doubt, no matter how loud it was, had no choice but to obey. This is what you must learn. Doubt is not defeated by logic. It is silenced by command. 2. Abraham Lincoln. This is the burden I must carry. Lincoln did not look the part of a leader. He was awkward, melancholic, laughed at for his appearance, attacked for his decisions. He led a nation divided and bleeding. At every turn, he was told he was unfit. Can you imagine the pressure of knowing that every word you say could tear your country further apart? The doubt he faced wasn't just internal, it was national. And yet he said this: I am nothing, but truth is everything. He never claimed to be the perfect man. He never pretended to be without fear. But he stood firm in purpose. That's what made him powerful. He allowed doubt to exist in the room, but he did not let it sit in the chair of command. He bore the burden and still chose to lead. 3. Thomas Edison. I did not fail. The man failed over 10,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. 10,000. That's not exaggeration. That's recorded truth. He was mocked in newspapers, dismissed by scientists. They called him delusional. When asked why he hadn't given up, Edison simply replied, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That is not just optimism. That is identity. That is a man who trained his subconscious to see attempts as progress, not proof of inadequacy. You see, doubt says, maybe you're not cut out for this. But belief answers, I will become what is required no matter how long it takes. Edison's success was not a product of genius. It was a product of repetition in the face of doubt. 4. Andrew Carnegie. Surround yourself with belief, not noise. Carnegie was born into poverty. Immigrant, no formal education. Worked in a cotton factory at the age of 13. Yet he became the wealthiest man of his time and a mentor to millions through his philosophy of wealth and contribution. How? He trained his environment. He surrounded himself with men who believe bigger. He built a mastermind, a brotherhood of thinkers, leaders, and visionaries who would challenge his doubt into silence. He once said, "You cannot push the mind to grow while surrounding it with those who pull it back." Carnegie didn't pretend doubt never came. He just never let it echo in empty rooms. He knew the trick. Let others speak faith into your future. Louder than doubt speaks failure into your past. What do these men teach us? They were not superhuman. They were not immune to fear. They were not blessed with confidence every day. They simply practiced a pattern. They heard doubt, and they answered it. And that answer came in the form of action, repetition, and belief. Now it's your turn. Here's your practice. Write down one thing you've delayed because of doubt. It could be a conversation, a business, a habit, a risk, and a decision. Name it. Then ask yourself, what would Ford do? What would Lincoln say? How would Edison move? Who would Carnegie call? This is not a mental game. This is mental modeling. These men are not statues to admire. They are systems to imitate. Because what they did was not magical. It was mechanical. You can do the same. Let's finish with declarations, the kind that forge armor inside your nervous system. Say these now with force. I am the type of person who acts despite doubt. I follow command, not emotion. My future speaks louder than fear. I rewrite doubt with daily repetition. I am not broken. I am becoming. I decide. I declare. I dominate. Now take a breath. Let them settle. Let the voice of your future self rise louder than the whisper of your hesitation. Because if Ford, Edison, Lincoln, and Carnegie could rise with no more certainty than you have now, then you have no excuse left but action. The formula has been shown. The path is proven. And now the only question left is this. Will you obey the voice of doubt or the command of destiny? There is a voice in your head that has lived there for years. It doesn't scream, it whispers, it doesn't shout, it suggests. And because it whispers just low enough to sound like your own thoughts, you've listened to it, you've obeyed it, you've mistaken it for you. This voice says things like, play it safe. Later might be better. Don't embarrass yourself. What if it doesn't work? You've heard it while sitting still, while pacing, while scrolling, while lying awake in bed wondering what more you were meant for. And yet, every time you've gotten close to rising, that voice has tugged at your ankle with just enough pull to keep you ordinary. Let us now expose that voice for what it is, a liar. It was never telling you the truth. It was protecting its territory because that voice is not you. That voice is the version of you who fears change, the one who found comfort in confusion, who found identity in indecision, who found safety in staying the same. And if you want to live your vision, you must silence that voice, not by arguing with it, but by disobeying it. Because here is the truth. Doubt is not something you defeat in a single battle. Doubt is a whisper you must outspeak daily, a shadow you must outshine, a thought you must outrun, not with speed, but with decisiveness. When you were born, you didn't know how to doubt. You didn't know how to hold back. You screamed when you needed something. You moved toward whatever caught your eye. You reached. You fell. You reached again. That was you before the world taught you fear. before you were handed the script, before they told you, be realistic, before they laughed at your ambition, before they modeled hesitation and passed it down as maturity. You are not trying to become something new. You are returning to what you were before the world got to you. Let me say that again. You are not broken. You are buried. And now it's time to rise. The voice of doubt dies through repetition of identity. This is why men like Ford and Carnegie were so powerful. They didn't repeat outcomes. They repeated beliefs. Beliefs that aligned with who they were becoming, not who they had been. So here is what we do now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, 1, establish a command phrase. The subconscious mind cannot differentiate between truth and repetition. It only knows what is said often enough to matter. So we build a phrase, short, sharp, emotional, and we speak it aloud every single day. Something like, I am the type of person who acts in power. Or, I follow command, not comfort. Or, I am decisive, I am focused, I am unshakable. Make it yours, make it sacred, and say it louder than the doubt. This is not for motivation, this is for installation. 2, create a victory trigger. Every time you take action that once brought fear, even small action, reward it. Why? Because the brain is wired to reinforce whatever is repeated with emotion. You go exercise when you didn't feel like it? Stand taller, clap your hands, speak the phrase, you made the uncomfortable thing? Smile with pride. Write a line in your journal. Today I proved who I am. You silence the voice of maybe later. Say this aloud. That voice no longer leads me. These micro rewards compound. And soon, the brain associates action with identity, and fear becomes weaker in its presence. 3, replace the input. Many men try to change their lives without changing their environments, and then wonder why they keep returning to doubt. But understand this, what you feed your eyes and ears is what you install in your mind. Every podcast, every book, every conversation, every video. Ask yourself this now. Do my inputs make me bold or quiet? Do they sharpen me or soften me? Do they remind me of who I'm becoming or who I used to be? If you truly want to silence doubt, you must starve it. And that means replacing every casual, convenient, low-standard input with one that aligns with your highest identity. Listen to the voices of conviction, of power, of vision, and most of all, that listen to your own. 4, install morning command. No more waking up and hoping for motivation. From this day forward, you begin the day with command. That means wake up, stand up, and say aloud, this is my day. My mind is mine. I act on command. Read your definite purpose. Speak your affirmation. Visualize yourself acting decisively. It takes 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes, repeated daily, become law. You are teaching the mind who it works for. And if you skip this, the old voice returns and you obey it again. 5, practice strategic disobedience. Make this your new daily mission. Disobey the weak voice at least once per day. That's it. One moment, one decision, one tiny act of rebellion against hesitation. It could be making the call, finishing the rep, publishing the post, saying no when you normally say yes, saying yes when you normally delay. The size doesn't matter. The obedience shift does. Because each time you disobey the doubt, your subconscious takes notes. He no longer follows the old script. A new man is being built. And that, not reading, not watching, not wishing, is what transforms your identity. Now say this with me, aloud, and repeat it 3 times, once softly, once strongly, once with full conviction. I do not follow fear, I follow command. I do not follow doubt, I follow decision. I do not follow hesitation, I follow identity. There is a moment that separates the man who breaks free from the man who circles the same loop forever. It is not when he gets more information. It is not when he feels more ready. It is when he says, I am done obeying the lie. That moment is now. Not because you're perfectly prepared, but because you finally remembered who you are. You are not your doubt. You are not your past. You are not the voice that says not yet. You are the one who decides. And every time you declare your identity louder than your fear, the old version dies. So speak again. I'm the type of person who will succeed. I'm the type of person who follows through. I'm the type of person who builds, commands, and finishes. I'm the type of person who silences doubt by acting in power. This is the new voice. Let it run on loop. Let it ring louder than the world. Let it lead you to the life that always belonged to you, but was waiting for the moment you chose to obey it.